thing about nerves is that everybody is nervous. Like there are millions of people every year that go and do 5Ks, 10Ks, and everybody is nervous going in because you are you're not racing against anyone else. You're racing against yourself. As soon as that gun goes off, like the nerves are completely gone, and you're trying to execute your race plan. You're trying to push it a little more, but not too much. And I tell you, when you finish a race, that's what it's all about, because that feeling of accomplishment, and you're surrounded by everyone else that has just crushed their goals and done something amazing. You just get to like bask in everybody's happiness and glory, and you're a part of it. And then you get to go through the rest of your day knowing that you just crushed a 5K. Yo, it's Matt B, and I'm a renegade.
Welcome to the Renegade Podcast, where we set off each episode to explore that human connection that we all have with running and endurance sport. I'm Todd Marentette, and with me,
Runkle Mark.
A big part of the Renegade Podcast is you, our listeners, and we really appreciate the love, the likes, the comments that you share with us on social medias. Is it social medias or media?
All the medias.
And you know what? You can find us on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, on our YouTube channel. Subscribe, like, comment. All that love helps us book great guests. In the vast expanse of digital running narratives, one persona stands out with an unyielding zest for the marathon. A beacon of positivity and expertise, Matt Bertrand, known to the running community simply as It's Matt B. In an era where running transcends mere physical exercise to become a lifestyle, a philosophy, Matt has elevated his personal journey into a shared odyssey for thousands. His YouTube channel isn't just content, it's a sanctuary for runners seeking wisdom, laughter, and inspiration. From the meticulous dissection of running shoes to the raw, honest vlogs of marathon days, Matt encapsulates what it means to be a runner at heart. But beyond the accolades, it's his ethos that resonates. Be kind, be happy, run well. A mantra that infuses every video, podcast, and social media interaction. He's not just about the miles. It's about the community, the shared struggles, and the triumphs. In a world of craving connection and authenticity, we're happy to welcome Matt Bertrand, or It's Matt B, to the Renegade Podcast. In a world of runners, be a renegade. Hey Renegades, we have something exciting to share with you today, and it's all about revolutionizing the way we think about footwear. Enter Paluva, a brand that's setting new standards in the world of shoes. What makes Paluva unique? It's their commitment to foot health, with a design that mimics the natural movement of your feet. We're talking about shoes that give your toes the freedom to move independently, enhancing your balance and strength with every step. Plus, they blend this with style. No more choosing between comfort and looking good. If you're looking to develop stronger, healthier feet, Paluva stands out for its zero-drop design, promoting a natural posture, and their thoughtful use of materials are both durable and kind to the environment. Check out Paluva if you're ready to walk, run, or just stand in a way that your body will thank you for. This isn't just a shoe, it's an upgrade to your daily life. Give your feet the comfort and style they deserve with Paluva. Myself, I've been trail running in the Paluva Strand ATRs. Lightweight, flexible, they really allow your feet to feel the trails. And my feet always feel great after a trail run. We're stoked to have Paluva sponsor our podcast. And as a special offer, you can use the code RUNEGADE for 15% off your order. That's RUNEGADE, and you'll get 15% off your order. Check them out at paluva.com. Your feet will thank you. Mark, on this episode of The Renegade, we have Matt Bertrand. You might know him from his socials. It's Matt B.
Definitely looking forward to chatting with Matt. It's not only like a lifestyle focus of his content on YouTube, very, very dialed in with running, but also gear and overall wellness. So definitely looking forward to chatting him up on a few of his perspectives on how to maintain a healthy lifestyle and what kind of gear is really cranking his handle for 2024. So,
or 2025, Mark.
well, I mean, this past year is coming. Oh, you're
Oh,
right.
okay.
Oh, you're right. What's for our listeners? By the time you listen to this, it will be the future.
You're right. You look at his socials, running shoe reviews, running gear reviews, and he's vlogging about races, his everyday training. And the one thing that kind of perked my interest is when I saw him on my Instagram. This guy's got a positive energy about him. And we need those runners in the world that are bringing that positivity. And I don't know, there was so much infectious energy. When I reached out to Matt, I said, "You want to join us on the Renegade?" His first response was, why would you want to talk to me? And I'm like, why wouldn't we want to talk to you? You're exactly what the world needs more of. So
Exactly.
And he's a prolific runner too. I think he's completed over 50 marathons.
He's qualified for Boston over 20 times.
What?
Yeah.
He's a good runner. He's a good runner. So we're definitely going to welcome him to be a friend of the Renegade Podcast. Whether you're vlogging or writing running shoe and gear reviews, there's an athletic brew for you.
Oh, that's good. How about this? Whether you're a blogger, a vlogger, or just enjoy a lager, there's an athletic brew for you.
Cheers. I like that one too.
This is an IPA, but if it was a lager, it'd be even better.
Cheers.
Cheers. Ah, good stuff. That's the stuff.
All right. So we'll welcome Matt here. Let's hope we don't shut the internet down.
Good morning, Matt.
Hey,
Hey, can you see us okay?
good morning. How are you guys? Yeah,
Pretty
I got
good.
you great. How do I sound?
You sound great. Yeah, no echo. I don't hear any echo at all. How about you, Todd?
All right,
Can you hear anything?
It sounds good so far. I'm afraid to mention it too early.
Hey, look at this.
Oh,
there we go.
Shoot, I was going to wear mine too. Darn it. Okay, let's pretend underneath I have the Path Project shirt on too as well.
Yeah. I mean, I always wear Path Projects anyway, a lot of the time. And I told my wife, I was like, I got to wear this shirt because I know that they're going to be wearing Path Projects something.
Yeah.
I got the hat.
Yeah, definitely.
I took off my Klamath shirt, the shirt jacket. I've been wearing that all fall and winter so far. That's a really nice merino wool button up. And I was making fun of Mark earlier because that's his Dixon flannel that he wears, and I'm like, hey, I got the Path Projects Klamath shirt.
Nice and cozy.
That's
Yeah,
right.
I don't get a chance too often to wear anything like warm.
Not fair enough.
down
Yes,
here,
down
but
in Florida.
I do have a package that came in a couple of days ago from Path Projects, and I haven't opened it yet. I'm going to open it on camera, but I think it's some kind of hoodie. But
Perfect.
we'll
Yeah,
see.
they dropped 3 new hoodies or 3 new long sleeves. I saw. I'm putting another order in here in the new year. But they have the Pyrenees hoodie that I wear like all fall and all winter, and it was just like it was this material. It's the tensolate material with long sleeve, and it had the opening for the watch, which was genius.
Yeah.
And then they dropped some, I guess, thicker, warmer, more performance fabrics. Floris and that team over there, they're doing good.
Yeah. I ran into Floris at a hookah party at TRE a couple months ago. I had never met him before, but he saw me and he walked up, and you see him all the time.
It's not the funny thing. It's like we've known each other for forever because of just watching video and listening to content and things. It's just like you know the person, right? So that's hilarious.
Well, the funny thing was he walked up with his wife, and I felt like I know her too because he puts her on his social.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. And then I saw on your socials that you ran the Berlin this fall, and I ran the Berlin last year with Floris. He was there too, and we had a whole Path Project Shakeout crew personal best meetup.
Oh,
and
nice.
How was your Berlin experience, Matt?
Berlin was really good. It was so packed, and I've run a few marathons, but it was probably the busiest and most crowded marathon I've ever run.
Yeah, it is.
It was difficult to get up to pace. Now, saying that, because I was held back, I actually ran a pretty good race, and I think my second half was only like 7 seconds slower than my first half, which never happens to me.
Wait,
I
are
slow
you
down a lot.
saying that pacing means a lot to runners in a marathon?
Yeah, who knew?
Who knew?
Yeah, who
I
knew?
haven't learned it yet.
Yeah, I've been running a long time, and it seems like it was forced into me, at Berlin.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a good event.
At the major marathons, they are very packed, and sometimes the crowd placement means a lot. And I remember for Berlin, I think we were in like wave C or something like that. So the gun went off I think 9 o'clock, and we went out pretty quick. Whereas in New York, the waves seemed to take forever and ever to get through. I do remember that about Berlin, but then I remember the course getting congested right away.
Well, the thing with Berlin is that it was my first marathon in Europe, and they didn't have like barricades holding people back, or it was just like people kind of crowded in, and it was just like you see on VK races where Killian is like climbing up a mountain, or even on the Tour de France where they're climbing a mountain, like king of the mountain, and the people they're close enough to let one cyclist through or to let a runner through. And it was like that in Berlin. It was like the people will only give you enough space that you can run by. There's no like, I'm just going to go wide. It was, you had to stay in your lane.
Absolutely. That crowd, it's infectious, and you're right. It's so close. I remember that many parts of that course where it would narrow down, and then people are patting you on the back, and you're running, and you're trying to get around runners. That's that great vibe about those major marathons. They have that energy.
There's something to be said for that. There's just a lot of crowd support, and like when you're down, like occasionally you need that, but a lot of the times I need that, that outside encouragement coming in.
Absolutely. Well, Matt, we just want to thank you for joining us on the Renegade. And, I reached out to you a couple months ago, and I think you said something along the lines of, why would you want to talk to me? And I'm like, but you know what?
I mean, I guess everybody, or most runners are just like normal people. So, I guess it's encouraging to see that other just like normal guys go out and run and do what they do.
And that's who I represent here is the dads that just try to get out there and put a few kilometers in. I'm going through a little bit of a wave right now of I was out for a little bit now trying to get back into it. Still have yet to run a race, so that is Todd just continues to encourage me to sign up for that first one, but we'll see what 2025 brings for me here. But.
Well, yeah, the thing with racing, and I'm actually not a fan of racing so much. Or let me clarify. I love racing when I'm there, but the whole preparation and the stress of like getting ready for it it's a little stressful. If I had my choice, I would just go out and I'd do my daily runs every day. Like it makes my life better just having that as my routine. But I tell you, you'll never know what you can do until you do it in a race setting, because like you think you're running your splits, like you're trying to go for a certain time, and so you're running these like intervals or a tempo run at a certain pace, but you can't judge your race by that totally, because you are going to feel so much better on race day because of tapering, because of crowd support, because of just all your friends are just like, even if they're not there with you, they're kind of encouraging you on, and you will run better than you've ever run before on race day, unless you go out too fast.
Yes.
which I can attest to, because I've done that more times than I could count.
Now, do you find that like a lot of the stress that you feel before a race comes from just trying to choose which shoes you're going to wear? Because I mean, you have such a selection.
This isn't a very wide angle, but there's a few.
Oh my goodness, it goes, keeps going. It's amazing.
But no, I don't find it stressful to choose what shoes to wear, because at this kind of point where I'm at, I'm going to be choosing a shoe that is with a brand that I'm like running with or I'm trying to promote at the time. So for Berlin, I was there, like Adidas gave me a bib for Berlin. So I knew I was running in Adidas. I actually didn't know which shoe I was going to be running in until the day.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I ran in. I can't just turn around quickly and find a shoe. Okay, so yeah, for the Berlin Marathon, I did just run in the Adios Pro 3.
Okay.
And they actually went to a shop and picked me up a pair of these because I didn't have them at the time. Of course, the Berlin Marathon was all about this, the
Yes.
Adios Pro 4, but they only had a 12 and a half. And I tried it on like before the race, thinking I was going to race in it. And it just wasn't big enough. I definitely could have run in it, but something would have held me back. And, when you're running like the first 10K of a marathon, you're going to feel great and everything's going to be good. But 3 hours into it, for me, when I'm like really tired, I just knew that it was going to be a little tight in the toe box. So I didn't actually have a size that I felt comfortable in. So that's why I went with the Adios Pro 3. But aside from that, with a race, I will usually choose a shoe that I haven't raced in before or is new.
Really?
Just because
that goes against convention there, Matt. Like, help us understand that, because most runners would got to test out, I got to have everything ready.
Okay, so the Berlin Marathon was the first marathon that I've ever run that I ran in a shoe like immediate, like brand new. Hadn't tested it, just put it on my feet and ran. And I had a fantastic race. I think generally nowadays shoes are built so well that they don't have a break-in period that we're kind of, told, well, you have to break them in, make sure they fit, make sure they work. I know that Adidas shoes work for me, so I'm pretty confident that putting on a pair of Adidas shoes that fits me, it's going to work for the race. Now, I still maintain don't try anything new on race day, because a lot of people races mean everything to them. And, you build up a lot and you don't want to risk anything by trying something new. Because I do all this and I'm on social for running and I try and support a lot of brands, the race itself isn't always my top priority. Like completing the race is my top priority, but I've kind of switched to making a video about the race is my top priority, while running as fast as I can. Could I run faster if I wasn't holding a camera and trying to narrate the whole thing?
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
But, I've got to find that middle ground,
Well, interesting you touched on that, because I had a question for you along those lines. You've run over 50 marathons, I believe, right?
Yeah.
And as you evolved and started vlogging and recording your experience at a marathon, how has that improved the race experience? And how is that, I don't know, do you find it tough to make a connection with the race or being in the moment because you're worried about, I got to record or what I'm saying, or you know what I mean?
No, in fact, I think it actually enhances it. Now,
Okay.
I think a lot of people see me carrying a camera, and let's say Berlin didn't ban selfie sticks, so I got to be able to have a selfie stick. So I had to hold I got to hold the camera far out, which is a lot better than say Boston, which doesn't allow selfie sticks. So I always hold an action camera. I'm just holding it out at arm's length. Now my arms are pretty long, so I can get a good thing. But a lot of people ask, well, how do you carry a camera for an entire race? It's hours. And well, you get used to it. It's just like anything. Non-runners will ask you, how do you run a marathon? Well, it's the same thing. You just practice and you get used to it. But as far as connecting with the race, now I am more likely to look at other people's interpretations of races before I go. I am more aware of my surroundings because I know that I'm trying to capture it for the camera. It kind of makes me interact with runners a little more because, especially at Boston last year, I was talking to a lot of people at the start line, and I got to put them on camera. And then a lot of times, this is what I've noticed for the last couple of years, where I live, when I'm filming myself on my run around where I live, when I look back at the footage, it makes me appreciate how beautiful everything is, seeing it from a different perspective, not just me being tired and going out and oh, all right, I've got to get this run done. And I go for a run and I'll film something. And of course, I'll pep up a little bit when I'm on camera. But then when I look back at it, I'm like, oh, wow, the sky was really blue and those palm trees look beautiful. And, this was a really nice day. What a good day for a run. So it kind of helps me connect to the run a little more, if that makes any sense.
And I can relate to that too. I mean, I'm looking at just the other earlier this week. I was going back in the archives of just my iPhone and of my kids when they were like fresh, like 2 years old and whatnot. And it's like we would be just doing a random video of just everyday life around the house, and you'd have the dog in the corner who's since passed away, and you'd have like just little things about the house that you're like, oh my gosh, I totally forgot we even had things set up that way. And so it's like a snapshot in time. It's like having that experience obviously captured, and you're just noticing different things in the background that if you're just relying on your memory alone, it'd probably be gone, right? So it's such a
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. I'd never remember half the things I do. At least the details of these things, and the details is what makes everything just a little better.
So part of my research too, Matt, I was digging into some of your background there on your YouTube channel, and I did have a question as well relating to one of your earliest videos. So is the Vegetti Pro still a tool in
oh my
the
gosh, you found the
kitchen?
Vegetti Pro video?
How is it?
For a sec, I didn't get that right away. I was like, what was the Vegetti Pro? Is that a shoe? Like
the Vegetti
I've
Pro
since
2s?
retired the Vegetti Pro.
Oh, you have? Okay.
Yeah, but that was a good time.
Hey, Renegades. A big part of the Renegade Podcast is sharing with you, our listeners, the stuff that works for us. And we have an excellent friend of the podcast, Path Projects. Founded in 2018, they're focused on functional designs, innovative materials, and apparel that looks great in the city, and gear that excels on the most grueling of trails. They offer a complete range of technical gear and apparel for today's modern athlete. And for our listeners, use the code TRP10 for 10% off your order for a limited time. And we'd like to thank Path Projects for being a great friend of the podcast.
Now, is that what was the foray, or that's what broke you into blogging, vlogging, and whatnot, or were there videos even before that one that?
So my actual YouTube channel started in 2019. January 1st, 2019 was when I decided, you know what, I need to start a YouTube channel. I think that's a good idea. It's something I want to try. Yeah. I had made a few videos before that, but it was really just me and my phone. Hey, I just went for a run. I wore this hydration pack. I thought the Vegetti Pro thing was funny at the time. I thought I was so enamored with it. This is amazing. It can turn a courgette into spaghetti. Yeah. So yeah, that was just messing around. And then January 1st, 2019 was when I decided that I wanted to, just try a little harder, make an effort and go forward, because anyone can mess around with their phone and post stuff, but I wanted to do it on a regular basis and do it with intention.
Absolutely. And, we were big fans of making noodles out of zucchini and, when we go through our keto phases and things like that. So yeah. Absolutely, I could relate with that one when we saw it. So thank you for putting that out there, as well as all the other content that you have over the years.
Yeah. I think I had another, I don't remember, but I got a food processor and I made a video about an unboxing of it or something. I was just doing the most random things before I actually started the channel and decided to drill down into running. But also, I kind of thought I was a one-trick pony with running. Running was my only hobby. And I was I need to expand my horizons and do something else. So now I run and I talk about running. So, pretty well-rounded guy.
We're grateful that you have, but this is great.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, along those lines, Matt, maybe you can talk to us about your relationship with running. How did you find running and why running?
Yeah, that's, why running? It's a good question. So when I was a kid, my dad would occasionally run, not the way we run now, but he would go out and for exercise, and he would play football, and running was just for fitness. So I kind of had someone in my life that was a runner amongst other things, but just for fitness. And then of course, that was probably when I was a very early teenager. Then, of course, time passes and I'm just doing all other sports. And I would occasionally go out for a run. I'd get a bee in my bonnet about, I want to get fit. So I'd go for a run, but then I wouldn't go for a run for 9 months, And then it's probably been about 20 years now that I would actually consider myself a runner. But I started getting into it, and I'd go to 5Ks and 10Ks. Then I got really into triathlon, and I was just mad for try everything. I just love the whole concept around it. Like, the 3 sports: I can swim, I can bike, I can run. That's really cool. So a couple of years of that, I met my wife, and my wife was in the running community around here at the same time, and actually met my wife at my first half marathon. So we met and said hello, and she was cute, and then we just said goodbye and went our own separate ways. Now, a couple months later, at a local half marathon, so this first half marathon was a couple hours from us, then we met up at my second half marathon, and I saw her again, and she was running the marathon, I was running the half marathon, and she finished I finished my race, and then I hung out to see her cross the line. I didn't know what she was running or how long she was going to be, but she crossed the line in 3 hours flat that day.
Wow.
And
that's a fantastic time.
Yeah, but thinking back, I had no idea what that meant. I was like, good, here she comes. She came second that day, so pretty good. A woman that runs 3-hour marathons is going to win a lot of marathons a lot of the time, and she's won plenty of marathons, including, I think, Manitoba a couple times.
Wow.
And she's Canadian too.
Oh, really? Okay.
But she came second that day, and then I saw her after, and I was like, hey, good race. It didn't mean anything to me that she'd run in 3 hours, because I had no idea. I was so green that I didn't know what that meant in relation to running a marathon. But then, I asked her out, and then the rest was history, because then I started paying attention to how she was training, and she was training like a serious marathoner all the time. She'd go out and she'd run like a 5K every weekend, but then she was also training for marathons. So she was putting in those 20-mile runs, or, I don't know what, 35 kilometers, long runs. And she was like, yeah, you just need to run a little more. You're not running enough. I was like, okay. And then the rest is history. I just started paying a little more attention to training and training more. And then I did my first marathon, which was the Miami Marathon, with her. And then, I just got the bug, and I liked the marathon distance. I just kept doing more and more and more.
And do you train together now, or do you kind of keep that separate, or how?
No, that's separate. She doesn't actually run anymore. She probably stopped about a year ago just due to some injuries.
Okay.
But she's still we have a Peloton, and she's on the bike every day, and she's maintained her fitness, just not running. So running has kind of become more my thing. And but up until about a year ago, we were doing a lot of training runs together.
Well, I can understand how Matt got into such great shape, trying to keep up with his wife, and then, just trying to follow her around race to race. Hey, is she going to be in this race? Maybe I'm making this up, Matt. He was maybe like, hey, she's going to be there, and now I got to go race. And now she's fast. How do I keep up with her?
Oh yeah, she was so fast. We actually found a picture of us at the start line of a 10K before we had even met, and we were in the same photo.
Oh, no way.
And I'm like I don't know, 5 or 6 rows back, and I'm taller than the average person, so you can see my head sticking over the top. And she's down on the start line, ready to go. And I remember that day, because I was like, oh, I just have to try and catch up with that blonde lady. I've just got to try and keep up with her. And then as we kept going out and backs, I noticed she was getting further and further ahead of me, and I'm like, oh my gosh, who is this lady? So that was before we even met. She was kind of well known in the running scene and just super quick.
So then she was kind of like you're pacing against at that point in time, just to catch up to her, right? So do you find that your times back, that you must have been so winded after those races, though, just exhausted?
Yeah, well, I mean, I figure if I'm not exhausted after a race, then I've kind of wasted that opportunity. But I was running pretty fast back then. Just of course, I was a lot younger as well. That I can't forget that. That has a lot to do with it.
Fair enough.
But our goal this year in 2025 is to get Mark to his first race, because, like Matt, you touched on it. I think maybe it's Mark's relationship with the race. And I don't know, maybe he's a little bit nervous about it. But once you get there, the energy, the vibe, just the people, it's so much fun. And we got to get him to a local 5K. We almost had him at a beer mile this summer. Almost.
Almost got
Yeah, the thing about nerves is that everybody is nervous. Like there are millions of people every year that go and do 5Ks, 10Ks, and everybody is nervous going in because you're not racing against anyone else. You're racing against yourself, and it is going to be uncomfortable in the way that trying your best to do something is uncomfortable. But it's a lot worse before you actually get there. Like once you're there, it's like you're committed, you're in. The nerves disappear. So if you had a 5K tomorrow, you'd be really, really nervous right now. And then once you get there, you're just like, well, I just have to do it. And then as soon as that gun goes off, like the nerves are completely gone, and you're trying to execute your race plan. You're trying to push it a little more, but not too much. The strategy just totally shifts. And I tell you, when you finish a race, that's what it's all about, because that feeling of accomplishment, and you're surrounded by everyone else that has just crushed their goals and done something amazing. You just get to like bask in everybody's, happiness and glory, and you're a part of it. And then you get to go through the rest of your day knowing that you just crushed a 5K.
That's true. I think for me, I've never been a hugely competitive person, and when when I started my running journey, it was just more to get out there, try and keep a certain level of fitness. I crossed the age of 40 a couple years back, and it was like, okay, Mark, you got to do something that is easy breezy, something that each morning you can. An easy 5K is what I tend to do, and then the whole race element though was something that just it didn't quite appeal to me, but I'm thinking more about it now, and I think I just need to go into, okay, well, what is the race etiquette? I don't want to cut people off. I don't want things like that on race day that you kind of get in your head about things. So I know there's a lot of content out there, a lot of great YouTubers, vloggers like yourself put a lot of great things out there. So perhaps I'll do my research on that and get myself over this hump, and try that first easy 5K and go from there.
Yeah, I definitely encourage you. I think it'll be a nice surprise, and I know how you feel. Like the idea of racing, just it's not my favorite thing to do, except when I'm in it, and then after. I am so glad that I've done it.
Yeah.
I think I think you owe it to yourself to do at least one, because even though you're not competitive, like newer runners, newer runners have an idea that you're going out there to race and you're racing against everybody else, when in reality, that's not the case.
Mm-hmm.
When you go to a race, like we're not professional runners, right? We don't have to support our family by running really fast. We are only competing against ourselves. And even if you're not competitive with yourself, but going out and running a 5K, you're going to run faster than you usually do,
Mhm.
which means you're working on your running economy. You're going to be building that lactate threshold. You are doing lots of things that are going to benefit you for just your easy runs moving forward. So maybe if you approach it that way, like it's just another training run, except this training run is going to be really hard. My heart's going to be beating out of my chest,
Yeah.
and I'm going to be better for it at the end.
That's true. No, that's a really good perspective. In terms of like races coming up for you, do you have many on the docket for 2025 that you're looking forward to?
No, it's not really. I'm 90% sure I'm running the Osaka Marathon. Then I'm running Boston again. And then I'm looking at something on October 19th. And I say something because I don't know what that race is, but I think I'm going to be in Europe for that weekend. And there are several races in Europe, including the Amsterdam Marathon.
Oh, nice.
So that's one option. And then there are a couple other marathons at different countries in Europe that would be no big deal for me to go to. So yeah, this year is probably going to be a 3 marathon year for me. I don't know about anything else like half marathons or shorter distances. As far as, because I also have to look at it like from a content creation perspective. I really enjoy making marathon videos and just documenting the whole thing and like leading up to it, and just so other runners can see the excitement around big marathons. So I can't do too many because I don't want to, A, I don't want to get, injured. And B, I want to perform fairly well, even though none of them will really be my very best, just because of the camera and documenting everything.
Right.
So there's there's a balance that I try and strike. But yeah, those are the three. Well, three is what I'm planning. It may be two if the October one doesn't work out.
Nice. Well, lots to look forward to.
Well, and I was going to say, over your 20 years of running, how is your progression in racing? How did it occur? You started with some 5Ks, some 10Ks. How quickly was it before you were running your first half for your first marathon, and then multiple marathons in a year? Walk us through that.
Again, I can. I think my progression was fairly quick. I was running several years where I was only doing mainly 5Ks because, as you know, it's the same all over the world. 5Ks are the most predominant race distance. They're the most approachable for every runner. So there are a lot around. So I would do those. Then I started doing triathlons. So I was doing sprint triathlons and then Olympic distance triathlons, which has a 10K at the end. So I was racing some 10Ks. I told you I met my wife at my first half marathon. And then she was a marathoner predominantly. So that kind of encouraged me to just jump ahead and do that. And then it turns out I liked it. And I think that's ultimately what it was. I liked that distance the best. So it was probably 4 years from when I started running to actually doing my first marathon. But I met probably a year after I met my wife, I was doing a marathon. So I just needed that encouragement of seeing someone and then just kind of following in her footsteps.
Awesome. Now, I had a question too, but I know we were talking about your shoes a little bit earlier on there, but for the newer runners, what would be the most high-tech shoe you have in that collection behind you, like in terms of, the latest, the greatest technology, anything new or innovative that you're able to share from, that selection that's behind you right now?
Well, it's funny in the time that we live, everybody knows everything.
Yeah.
Nothing is a secret anymore. These shoe reviewers, myself included, sometimes we get shoes very early. And so, as soon as a shoe is leaked, everybody knows about it online. But let me just reach over. This is the one that's in my testing now. This is the Mizuno Wave Rebellion Pro 3. And this is probably the most just out there shoe as far as tech goes.
Yeah. You can see at the heel. The heel counter's gone.
Yeah, but the heel is totally missing, and that's the thing. But they've got almost 60 millimeters of stack in this biggest part here. But World Athletics says you only have to measure from 12.5% in.
Okay.
So if you measure about here, which is 12.5%, that's 40 millimeters. So that's, it's a race legal shoe.
Wow.
But
that's reading the guidelines right to the T.
Oh yeah. The guidelines are there, but then everything else is just up for interpretation. So this is the most crazy technology packed shoe. It's very aggressive. It's not for everyone. I would say it's not for me. This shoe has not been built for a runner like me. And yet it's still very fun to run in. So that's probably the most. I know you guys like Ultra. Here it is. The Vanished Carbon 2. Yeah, you guys are both running this, right?
I haven't ran in them, but I think Todd has.
Yeah.
I ran the New York with them.
I thought this was a huge step forward for Ultra. This is just a phenomenal shoe if you like zero drop. It's light, it's fast, but you have to like zero drop. That has to be something you're going for. It's not something that everyone can just jump into immediately. But still, just best shoe Ultra has ever made. I just love this so much.
Yeah, I was actually, this morning I was having a coffee here and I was reading something that Dr. Mark Kugazella shared. And it was a latest study that was showing, I think, 710 participants and how shoes impact injuries, but also someone's perception of the type of runner they are. Are they a 4-foot runner, a mid-foot runner, a heel striker? And you combine those factors in, and it actually does start to indicate that shoes can play a role in injuries. The way I kind of, and Dr. Mark will probably get me terrible and correct me afterwards, but the way I kind of read it is if you're a new runner who don't really have a base yet, or you haven't really understood how you run or not pay attention to your form, and you put on a really high stack shoe, you're going to run yourself into trouble. But as you are more, I guess, a tuned runner, the more you pay attention to your form, it doesn't really matter what shoe or what technology you wear, because I guess maybe you're constantly, I don't know, changing your style, changing your strike during a run. And that was pretty interesting because I noticed, Matt, when I first got into running, I never even thought about running shoes. I think I got a pair of Brooks Ghost 6 or something like that. And I ran myself right into the ground. And it was really because my foot got really, I would say, dumb. I had these big Hokas too. I'd wear these all the time. And then when I started to strengthen my foot, it took a long time. Like you said, 0 drops, not for everybody, but it took about a year of like just understanding my calves were going to be a little bit tight. And then getting into the 0 drop shoes have been fun. But now I can actually go to a higher drop shoe and no worries. It's about mixing it up every single day. And that's what I like about all the shoes. That's why I see all those shoes behind you. I'm like, how do you even figure out which ones you're going to wear each day?
Yeah, it's tricky. Although when it's easy is when I have a new pair of shoes to test in, because
True.
those are the shoes that I have to wear. So like right now I've got the Nike Zoom Fly 6 in for testing, and I haven't made the video yet, so I've been running a lot in those shoes. Same with those Mizuno Wave Rebellion Pro 2s. I test several Ultras throughout the year, so I test, at least a couple times a year I'm testing a 0 drop shoe, and then there are a couple other brands with like just super low drop. But yeah, as far as like being a new runner and not knowing what type of shoe, when it comes down to it, it's really just nothing really matters, because comfort is the only thing that matters. And if your feet are comfortable in a shoe, then you're going to be able to run well in it. And if you watch my channel, I always talk about the different specs and the stack height and the drop and the material. And it's all just like hearing myself talk, really, because unless you know what you like, just wear something that's comfortable and you're going to be very happy on the run.
So what would be like a typical test cycle for you then? Like what would it be? I need to run at least 50 miles, 200 miles in a shoe in order to give it a really good assessment as to if it's a good fit for you, for example.
That's a good question. And it's a good question because there's a lot of shoe reviewers out there, and we don't always know what their process is for testing shoes. And mine has changed as my channel has gotten a little bit better and bigger, and as I've got more shoes in. So there will be times when I have several shoes in and I've got a schedule I've got to stick to. I will always run a minimum of 50 kilometers in a shoe. Now, when I started, I wouldn't do a review until I'd run 100 miles in a shoe, just to make sure I had that. But 100 miles takes a long time, which is fine if you're not trying to get something out on the regular. Then it was 50 miles. Then I started like asking some of my kind of running shoe colleagues how much they run, and they were like, well, some are 20 miles, some are 50 miles, some are 50K. So I settled at 50K as an absolute minimum before I will even consider, scripting out a review to see, how I feel. I need several hours in a shoe on several different runs to really get a feel for how they are. And then, of course, shoes like this, the Wave Rebellion Pro 3, they take a little longer because this is a race day shoe. So there's no point me going out for, a 10K easy trot in these shoes, because it's useless. It's not going to help anyone. No one is going to spend, I don't know how much they are in Canada, maybe $300, but no one's going to spend 250 US on this shoe to go out and run an easy 10K. So I have to put in those hard miles and run hard in them so I know how it works. then you've got other shoes. Well, it's like most shoes are daily trainers. It seems like behind me. Let me just reach over. Do you recognize that? Do either of you have the forward Via?
Yep, forward.
Just total daily trainer. So, I'm going to go out and I'm going to run the majority of my my easy miles. Now, most of my miles within a week are easy. So a daily trainer is a lot easier for me to like stack the miles in. But then I also have to do strides, or like I have to see how it picks up the pace. So I'll have to include that into the testing, process.
Well, you touched on it earlier, Matt. I would say this: we are living at the best time ever in running because of materials, designs, the shoe styles, and they break in. You said it earlier; they break in really fast. So it makes sense that you don't need to put 100 miles on or 200 miles in. In the first 10, 20 kilometers of a shoe, you really start to feel it because it breaks really fast. The foam is so responsive, and we're so lucky. Like that's what I mean.
I agree.
Yeah.
Now, saying that, this is the forward Via. Do you remember last year the Via Olympus?
Yep.
It was the first. It was the first. Then they changed it to the
Super
forward
stacked.
Via. Yeah. So that one that required a break-in period. Like I didn't like it at all in the beginning. It was just too firm. It didn't seem responsive. But then, like after about 50K, you're like, oh, wait a second. It actually feels pretty good now, and I can take it out for longer, and it feels better. But for reviewers that are only going out and running a run and then giving their first impressions, making a video about their first impressions, it isn't going to translate because honestly, the first Via Olympus, I thought it was terrible. And if I'd have put my thoughts into a video, I'm going to be trashing a shoe when I really have no business to be talking about it because I've done one run and the shoe does require a break-in period. There aren't many shoes that do require a break-in period now, and this one wasn't one of them. This was good right out of the box. But, there are still some. So it pays to just run a little more rather than just put them on your feet and be like, yeah, that feels good. Let me turn on the camera and tell you all about it.
Well, now you have a wide array of running shoes behind you. Have you ever run in the sandals?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, yes and no. Have I run seriously in sandals?
Mm-hmm.
No. But I did run in a pair of, they're down there somewhere. I'm kind of looking for them. The Teva Event Trail.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I think is that the ones that Mike Wardian wears as the ultra runner? I think he was sponsored by Teva.
Sponsored by Teva?
Yeah. And he switched it up from his trail shoes over to those.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan. Now, perhaps I haven't given them enough time. Also, they were just a little big for me. I got my normal size, but your normal size doesn't really mean anything. If you haven't tried a certain brand before, you really don't know how the sizing is going to work. But yeah, I took them out. I ran in them with bare feet first, and they were okay. But I did notice a little bit of rubbing. That could be because of the size. And then I wore them with socks. So socks and sandals, you can imagine how that looks.
Stylish.
That wasn't a look that I'm going to be going for on a daily basis. But the socks made them feel a little better. But then when I'm running, I had white socks on when I went out for this run. I come back and my socks are absolutely trashed because there's like dust and little bits of dirt are just coming in the shoe. And I was like, I don't know if this is for me. So yeah, I get the appeal. I see people doing it online. I'm like, that's cool. It's very that's free. After my very limited experience with it, I'm not sure if it's something that I'm going to be moving forward with.
For sure. Now, you're in Florida. Mark Sisson's not too far from you. He was on our podcast a couple episodes ago, and him and his son started a brand called Paluva. Have you tried the 5-toe or the 5-toe Paluva shoes?
No, I haven't.
Oh, okay. The box is behind me, and they're dirty because I wore them trail running yesterday, so they're just destroyed from mud. But they're really cool. They're kind of like a 5-finger, but with a little bit more, I would say, cushion to them. And the toe boxes were easier to get your feet into. I know.
Nice. Yeah.
When I used to wear 5 fingers,
it can be a struggle.
Yeah, that baby toe would never get in a 5-finger. But the Paluvas, They work really well. And they're the trail shoe. I think they're called Strand ATRs. And Mark's here to talk about them. I probably wore them for about 100 kilometers on some nasty trails around here. And they're just fun. The toes really get to move. And I noticed that. Even I was just taking a video yesterday and the toes were just moving. And it's like, that's really cool because that's probably happening inside the shoe, but you don't get to see it.
Yeah, that's nice. I think it's one of those things. Having your toes being able to move inside a shoe, it's not something you think about until you have enough room for your toes to move, and then you're like, wow, this actually feels really good. So yeah, toe box room is it's a big deal. I mean, that's why companies like Ultra and Topo, they do so well. And then a lot of brands with their daily trainers, they do make very spacious toe boxes. It's really only the race shoes that seem to like dial in and taper that front of the shoe to give you that race day fit. That's just, I don't know if it's more streamlined or less material to lower the weight, but race day shoes aren't often the most comfortable shoes out there.
It's true. Absolutely.
So no, Todd was mentioning that, yeah, we live in a time where there's just, amazing access to products and technology and that. I know recently on your channel, you posted, kind of a review of 2024, some of the gear that you reviewed. Is there anything, and we can put a link in our show notes afterwards, but what was the biggest surprise for you out of what you reviewed in 2024, or anything that people should really know about if you think it's maybe something that isn't common knowledge for the broader base out there?
Yeah, I think we're also living in a time where like innovation is incremental.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not seeing like giant leaps where something is like, oh my gosh, this has changed my life, like we did in 2017 with the release of the Nike 4%. That was like a total just tectonic shift in running. It changed everything. So we haven't seen anything that big, since then. So like surprising, I would say no, nothing's been surprising. Stuff has definitely been better, but I expect some kind of innovation from year to year. Let's see. I will say something that I was really surprised at. Okay. Is something like this, and I really like this. And this shoe actually made my best of 24, and it's the Brooks Glycerin. This one wasn't the one that made my year. It was the Glycerin Max, which is back there somewhere, but I'm not going to waste everyone's time looking for it. But the reason that the Glycerin Max made my shoe of 2024 was Brooks' new DNA. I forgot the name. DNA tuned midsole foam. And if I show you the bottom, you can see there's like yellow foam here and white foam here. Well, that's all one slab of foam, but they're using two different cell sizes of the foam. And the cells up front are smaller and the cells in the back are larger. So when you kind of land with your heel first, it's soft, and then you have a little bit more responsiveness up front. Now the Brooks Glycerin Max it's a big, clunky, fairly heavy shoe as far as shoes go. And like on paper, for people looking at it, they're going to think, or some runners are going to think, that's too heavy to run in. And yet what Brooks did with that DNA tuned foam was to make that shoe feel a lot more lively than you would ever expect. So it was actually a fun daily trainer, which you won't hear me say too often because daily trainers are just made for those kind of everyday kind of slow runs. And I think Brooks did well with their DNA tuned midsole foam. I'm excited to see where they take it from here. Like if they can put it into a lighter package and maybe make a just more up-tempo type of shoe. But for a daily trainer, that was a solid shoe.
Neat. We'll have to look in that one. Awesome. Thanks.
Yeah.
Well, Matt, here, like something was on my brain. I love your running story. How you met your now wife running, and she got you into shape and pushed you off into those marathon distance. Maybe walk us through the next evolution. You said in 2019 you started your YouTube channel. What was driving you to share your positivity and to share your interest and your knowledge about gear with the world of creating content?
It's wish I would have thought about this question beforehand, but it was more of a need or a desire to create rather than to share my knowledge. Because, honestly, when I started, did I have any knowledge? I'd say that's arguable. I would say probably not, because as time goes on and we learn more about it, we gain knowledge, we gain wisdom. But I just wanted to create something, and that was really like when I started my channel, it was definitely more for me, just scratching that itch of creating something and putting it out there and seeing how it's received. Um, you know, now it's still a hobby, and I still do it for me because there are times when I get frustrated with it. Um, like as a content creator, and I'm often sent shoes by companies for review. I also suffer from this thing that a lot of runners suffer from, and content creators, and that's comparing myself to others. Now, this is the worst possible thing to do as a runner and you'll hear people tell you, like, you can't look at someone and say, oh, I want to run like them. I'm going to copy what they do and do what they do, and I'll get better. It'll drive you nuts. It won't lead to any kind of happiness. And I've actually achieved that with running. Like, I don't compare myself to any other runner. I run for me, and I run as best as I can run. Now, as time goes on with content creation, there are a lot of people out there, just their channels are growing, and I look at them still and I'm like, oh, I want to do what they do. I'm comparing myself to them, and it's unfair to me. So I guess I don't know where I'm going with that, but that's been like the progression of my channel. Like, as it gets bigger, you start comparing yourself, or I start comparing myself to other creators that are also getting bigger. And maybe they're growing at a faster rate, maybe they're not. But the funny thing about comparing is that you never compare yourself down, you only compare yourself up. So it's a losing battle. And I think that's something I have to work on with my channel. And it's kind of like this, it's up and down. And some days, or some weeks, maybe even some years, it doesn't bother me at all. And then other times it does. But ultimately, when I think about it, when I'm going through like a mentally downtime with creating content and continuing on, when I think about stopping, I think, no, this is actually something that I enjoy for me. So ultimately, I'm doing it for me. And that's why I continue to do it. And the same thing is true with running. Like, I don't have to record my journey. When it comes down to it, I would actually rather just go out and run for me and do my daily runs and wake up and, go for a run and come home and be happy. So I think that's a pretty good place to be, like when I'm not influenced so much by or I'm not comparing myself to others. I'm influenced by everything I see around me, just like everyone is. It's the human condition. But yeah, I'm happy with where I'm at running, and that's where I would like to be with my channel. Like, I just want to keep doing it because I enjoy it. And I just have to remind myself of that fact.
Absolutely. And I know it must occupy a lot of headspace. So how much on a daily, or even let's maybe expand it out to a week, how much of your week is dedicated to, thinking ahead as to, okay, I need to put out X amount of content, I need to edit, all of that goes into, your channel, right? There's a lot of time and a lot of hours that aren't seen by people, right? It's not.
Right. And I think it's a lot more work than comes across because, I don't speak in the most smooth way. Um, I have to chop up my videos quite a bit to get rid of the gaps. So there's a lot of editing that goes into it. And I think if someone's thinking of starting a channel, they have to think like, how do I want to portray myself? How much time do I have to invest in this? But I would say it's definitely a daily thought. Like, my channel now, it's a pretty big part of my life. So I definitely think about it every day. On days that I'm working, I really can't do anything with my channel, so I have to plan for my days off. And on my days off, I'll have different things. So I've got this scheduled now when I'm talking to you. Later on in the afternoon, I have a French class. I'm learning French. So in between those times, I have to like schedule, like, how am I going to fit everything in? So I have a book right here, and this is where I script all my videos. So I will script them all first. But that's almost the easiest part, because once I film a video, like once I script a video, it's easy for me to turn on the camera and just boom, 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 hit those points, tell you about the shoe, because I've already formulated it in my head.
Right.
But I also have to film the content for running in the shoes. Then I have to have the B-roll of the shoes themselves. Then I have to have content to put on Instagram to promote the video that I'm filming.
Yeah.
And then there's other like little stuff that I'll put on Instagram just to, I mean, it sounds horrible, but build my brand. Like, who is It's Matt B?
Right.
So
It's all
like,
part of it.
this morning I made just a little short, and it was I didn't plan it. I knew I wanted to put something out, but I also felt like I needed to put something out. Like, this is what I'm doing. I'm coming to talk to you guys. Just be aware. Subscribe on Spotify, because this episode is going to be coming out soon. So it's pretty much a constant thing, but I don't want you to think that it's a burden, because
No.
I do enjoy it and it's fun. Like, this is my hobby. This isn't my job. So I choose to spend my time doing this. It just takes a lot of time.
Absolutely. Oh, that's awesome.
And it evolves too. Like what you were saying there echoes true for Mark and myself. This was the end of our first year. We're going to have our second season starting back up here really soon. And I think we did 24 episodes this year. If we go back to that very first episode, Matt, it took a long time to like edit it and try to figure it out. And really what it was just laying it out in your brain. But then after the second one, you can start to chop it up really quick. And then you touched on something it echoes true to us. You make content that you want to create for yourself. And if others like it, that's that Rick Rubin theory that Lawrence Smitlingen was teaching us about the creative act. Create content for yourself that you like. And if others like it, that's just a bonus. And I can see that in the content that you're creating and your positivity. It's obvious. You love this. And you know so much and you've learned so much. And it's just fascinating. So thank you for putting this content out there, because it's helpful. Like I love your Berlin.
Also, thanks to you guys, because I think in a way it does take another creator to really understand and appreciate what you do, because every one of your listeners is going to listen to you and they're going to get that. They're going to get the value that you're putting across, right? You're talking about something that they're interested in, and that's just going to come across. They're going to love that. But what they don't see is all the planning. And then, like, as you said, Todd, you reached out to me like months ago. It's taken us months to get together, to have a date, to sit down on a Monday morning and record this. Now, after, I get to press stop and go about and do my day and do my videos. But you guys are going to be like editing and then scheduling and everything else, and then scheduling the next person. So there's a lot that goes into it. And for 1 year, like, you guys are super smooth.
Thank you.
Yeah, your podcast it's fantastic.
Hats off to Riverside FM. Yes, we've been grateful and blessed that, and Mark and I joke about this, but everyone we've reached out to has said yes. So either we ask in the right way, or runners just like to talk about running. I think it's more the latter. But we've had amazing guests and lots lined up, and everyone has a great running story of how they first started, how they're evolving, what's next, and that's what's so exciting. And maybe that's a question to ask you. What's next for It's Matt? Like, It's Matt B. Like your YouTube, your Instagram. Where do you see you going?
That's a good question. Like, it's embarrassing in a way, because like I don't have a 5-year plan, which anyone that is serious about any kind of business venture like needs to. But just going back to the racing thing, like the reason I've already said that I don't really like racing, and yet I do like racing at the same time, is that I get to go to an event and I get to be surrounded by people that love the same thing that I love. So we get to talk about running, we get to talk about shoes, and it's a fun social event. And I think ultimately I love talking to other runners, and you guys get to do it. Obviously, this is this is your job, talking to other runners. But one of my favorite parts of my channel is the comment section. So like, I want my comment section to be just like boom, 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 boom. So I can like, oh, what's that? Is that a question? Oh, someone's got a comment. Yeah, I get to either answer that question, or I get to encourage someone to like keep going, or like tell them they did a great job. Because I really think that these people did a great job when they're telling me about, like like you, Mark, you're going to mention to someone that you've run your first 5K, right? In this year, right? No, in the first half of this year, you're going to run a 5K. You're going to tell someone,
Yes, he
no
is.
pressure.
To something.
Yeah, you're going to tell someone that you've run your first 5K,
Yeah.
and they're going to encourage you. And like when you cross that line, everyone is going to be like cheering you and just really pleased for what you've done. And that's how I feel about my events, and I also feel that way for everyone else. So it's kind of just like a big love fest of, very single-mindedness of running.
Absolutely. And I think that just to add to what Todd was saying earlier, I know runners like to talk about running, but it's that supportive community. And I think that's where, folks have been willing to come on and talk to, we only started up this podcast last year. So 2 people brand new to podcasting, they were open to coming on and spending an hour with us and just sharing their knowledge and their perspective on things. And we've been extremely grateful for everyone that has come on. And it is taking an hour out of your day, and you have a very busy schedule, so that community has just been extremely supportive. So that's also what's drawing me in further into the running community, is just how great and positive everyone's been.
There's been 2 unsupportive people though, Mark. So
that's true.
Matt, we record our first couple episodes, Mark comes up with a great name. It's called Runderlust. So we don't know anything. We just start recording stuff, putting it out on YouTube. But then we got reported to YouTube because Runderlust makes running skirts, and we were using their trademark name. And they reported us before they actually just would have asked us. We should have known. It's our fault. But anyway, we changed our name right away. But we lost all our first content, and we had to change our name, and our name's better.
And given the opportunity, we would have provided, a review of their product.
Yes. Well, she was supposed to come on. Like, we still got to have her come on the podcast to talk.
Yeah, we hope we can.
Because when I talked to her afterwards and to apologize, she was really nice and gracious, and it was totally innocent because we didn't know you have to have trademark stuff and all that kind of stuff out there. But then
you guys are just getting started.
Just learning.
But that's a great origin story. That would be a fantastic episode.
Yeah. And then the second one, Mark, and Matt, you might have this too. Do you have any haters out there? We seem to have one that's constantly chirping us. Tito.
Yeah, I don't get as many as I would like. I kind of maintain that, if you've got haters, then you've really made it. And that's kind of when other content creators post their haters' comments. I'm like, hey, it's a good thing. Look, your hater has to watch you in order to hate you, so you're still getting that watch time.
It's true. It's true.
And unless a hater's comment, and I've had several, I've been doing this for several years, and I will always repost. Like, I look at it like it's content. Like, you're posting a mean comment, screenshot, post. Look what this person says. Can you believe that they were this mean? Like, because there's lots of things that you could pick on me about, but no one is going to be harsher about me and the way I do things than me.
Right.
Right. So to hear someone else say it, it's like, you think about it for a few minutes, and then it's like, whatever. But I'm going to use this to, maybe get more views, and then it comes back to the whole running community, because everyone will just encourage you, like, man, that guy's a jerk. Forget it. You're awesome. Keep doing what you do. That's the majority. So, yeah, I don't worry too much about haters, but I don't get that many. Maybe it would wear on me if I kept getting them, but they come and go pretty quickly. And if they're mean, like if they're really like inappropriate or mean, then I block them from everything, and they no longer get to hate on me, at least direct, or block them from commenting.
Yeah, well, we're hopeful that we get enough content eventually to have a whole episode about it from our friend Tito. So keep them coming, Tito. It's perfectly fine.
Tito, Hey, Tito, if you're watching this, then go onto my channel, drop some hate my way, because I'd love to make you as famous as I can by posting your hate.
I love it. Matt, maybe a question to start the end of the episode here. What aspect of running do you find that new runners often overlook?
I think the most overlooked thing is that it takes time to get better, and it's a tricky thing, because newer runners, when they get started, the improvement is so quick. Like, your aerobic fitness increases very quickly, whereas your your structural, your musculoskeletal fitness doesn't improve as quickly. So you're going to see runners that go out, they're going to run a 5K, they're going to run for a couple of weeks, come out, and they're going to like take 5 minutes off a 5K, and they'll be like, wow, this improvement is astounding, which is not surprising, and it's to be expected. But they also start to expect those improvements to just keep coming and keep coming. And they don't. They slow down. Sometimes they regress. Sometimes it's just incremental gains. But in the beginning, like, the progression of a new runner is so steep. But if you kind of lose sight of what you're supposed to be doing, as I did in the beginning, you're going to start to run more. And you're going to think, oh, well, look, if I can run, a 23-minute 5K and I've been improving, maybe if I just run more, and then it'll get to the point where you're like, if I don't really need a day off from running. I can run every day. And I ran every day for a long time. But it doesn't always work like that. Like, more work doesn't equal more results all the time. It's a very slow build that you need to do to build that fitness. So yeah, if new runners realize that, at least early on in their journey, I think we'd avoid a lot of injuries of newer runners. So yeah, for newer runners, just slow your roll, take it easy.
Totally agree with you. The progression is so quick. You get faster and faster, and then all of a sudden it starts to slow and slow. And then do you have the mentality to stick with it? Because maybe now if you're really that type A, you're looking for a second here, a couple seconds there. Or as we age, or Mark and I are starting to age, are you just evolving and enjoying the experience? And I find that too. And you touched on it early in the episode. As I know my marathon progression, my first few, I was always worried about my time. Now I know I'm going to finish if I don't get hurt. I'll finish. And the time is irrelevant. You're out there having fun. Try to, like you said, take movies, take pictures so that you can actually remember the event. Oh, I remember the crowd right here. I remember meeting Jen here at this point. And it's a great way to, to make memories and see stuff from a different vantage point. So I totally agree with you.
Yeah, you're right. I think it's difficult for runners to not have a goal of some kind. So like when I go for a marathon, I kind of know. I've run enough now where I know where my fitness is and I know whereabouts I'm going to run, give or take 5 minutes. Am I ever going to run, from where I think I am? Am I going to run 10 minutes quicker than that? No, that will not happen. The way it seems to happen for some runners kind of earlier in their journey. And it certainly happened for me. But now I'm so dialed into where I am and my fitness and what I am physically able to do that I know that I can't run a marathon 10 minutes quicker than what my time is predicting. But if I think back to other races when I was obviously younger, but also newer, less experienced, and hadn't run as many marathons, I hadn't reached my potential in that distance. So I forget what year it was, maybe 2007 or 2008, I ran the Manitoba Marathon, and it was the first marathon that I qualified for Boston at. And I was running with my wife, and I'm looking down, I'm like, about the halfway point, I'm like, hey, I just ran a PR in the half marathon, and I'm on target to, if I can just hold on to this pace, I could qualify for Boston. And before I was like, it's no big deal. Boston's Boston. I wasn't so into the running community that I had an appreciation for the Boston Marathon. But yeah, I managed to hold on all the way through to the end, and I qualified for Boston. Now, something I should say is that back then, my qualifying time, I was in my late 20s. My qualifying time was 3:10. And back then they gave you 59 seconds. So I had to qualify with 3:10:59 in order to qualify for Boston. And I ran I don't remember the seconds, but it was 3:10, 15 seconds. So I made it by those seconds, but however long ago that was, 20 years, maybe 15 years, that was, there was no weight, there was no buffer for Boston.
If you qualified, you knew that you were in right away.
Yeah. So yeah, that's how I first qualified for Boston, and I ran 11 minutes quicker than my previous marathon, which it's a big step. And then over the next couple of years, I managed to lower that my PB time by, almost another 20 minutes. So that progression was there very quick in the beginning, and then I kind of plateaued, and age and everything kind of made me slowly drift upwards. But yeah, the big gains are there to be taken. But once you've been running for long enough, I think they're more difficult to, you're just too aware of what you're capable of. That could be a good thing or a bad thing.
Absolutely. Oh, Matt, we just want to say thank you. I know we're just about an hour here. I want to be respectful of your time. And, we learned so much. And you are exactly like you are in your content. Like same energy, that same positive vibe. I love it. It's
thanks.
It's amazing.
Yeah, I don't put it on. It's very. I'm gonna have to go lie down now because I've been putting it on for an hour. But yeah, that was exhausting. I think most of us online. There are very, very few inauthentic people, and I can't actually think of one offhand because I probably wouldn't watch them if they were.
Mm-hmm.
But most of us that have been doing this, and you guys have been doing it for a year, and you're on camera and you're on Spotify. The only way to keep going in the long haul is to be your authentic self.
Right, it's true.
So.
Yeah. Otherwise, you get exhausted. No. Mark and I, we're acting all day. No.
Yeah, I know how that goes.
But again, thank you so much for joining us and taking the time out of your day. And we look forward to all your content that you put out. And as Todd mentioned too, as well, just that positivity is just contagious. So thank you again for everything that you do.
I appreciate it. And thanks for asking me to be on your podcast. It's like a big ego boost for me. Like, I'm like, yeah, why does someone want to talk to me?
We're happy to share with our Renegade listeners. Coming Sunday, September 14th, 2025, the Windsor Waterfront Half Marathon and 5K. Billed to be the flattest, fastest, most scenic, and more importantly, the most spectator-friendly event. Running along the Windsor waterfront, you have the Detroit River at your side. You have the Detroit skyline serving as that big city backdrop, and it's showcasing all the best of Windsor, Ontario. This is the half marathon or 5K that you've been looking for, the race that you must put in your calendar. As big city racing comes back to Windsor, Ontario, a short drive across the US border, this is the perfect tune-up for your fall marathon. And you have the time to start your running journey, time to train for your first race, be part of a big thing coming back to Windsor, Ontario. Renegade is proud to have the Windsor Waterfront Half Marathon and 5K be a friend of the podcast. And we are looking forward to seeing you at the start line, Sunday, September 14th, 2025. You can use the code WWHMTM8 for $20 off your race. That's WWHMTM8